What is good, y'all? Nick Engvall here, Sneaker History Podcast. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I am about to open up one of the shoes that I bought last summer, and I just realized that it's not my size. So I figured I'd share them and show them off because they're Nike by You design, formerly known as Nike ID. But then I gotta let them go because they just aren't gonna fit. So it is what it is. It hurts. It hurts. They're so good. And of course, the options on Nike by You have changed drastically since I made these. I guess a little piece of advice, don't be like me. Make sure the kicks that you order are your size when you get them. I have made a terrible habit of buying shoes and leaving them in boxes for months, sometimes years, because I get all wrapped up in just wanting to have them and not knowing if they'll ever come back. So this is one of those shoes that I did that with, and I'm not gonna lie, it sucked. What can you do? Air Max 1, Nike by You. This is from the summer of 2023. This has got the velvet or velour lining. It's got the croc alligator skin. I went with the teal here. This is a lighter white kind of color up here, but it is the same color, or was the same color on Nike's Nike by You program. Super soft suede. It's so good, man. I'm so bummed. That's kind of classic Nike on the back. Yeah, man. I think one of my favorite things about these pairs when they had them on ID is they came with these keychains, hang tags, whatever you want to call them. And you can see that it's got a little Nike Air logo on it. This one's got the Air Max logo on it. Most of you know the Nike Air Max 1 was designed by Tinker Hatfield in 1986-1987 when it first released. It was revolutionary, hence the kind of Air Max Revolution storyline that goes along with Nike using the Beatles song that they maybe not have been able to. Shout out to Wieden & Kennedy, the agency of record that did all the work on the marketing side for the shoe when it first came out. The shoe was originally designed after the Pompidou Center in Paris, France. It's basically a building that has a lot of the interior structure that we would normally put in walls, some of the piping, some of the wiring, conduit, that kind of stuff is on the outside of the building. I've never been there, unfortunately. If anybody wants to sponsor that trip, I'd be happy to take it and do a full report on how much it makes me think of the Air Max 1. But yeah, the shoe is super dope. Obviously, visible air was a big deal too. The talking point around the Air Max 1 back then was that we hadn't seen visible air.
But why not just show it? You know, it's not a bad idea to let people actually see what an airbag looks like. As a matter of fact, I've got a drawing here that actually shows what a shoe could look like with a visible window in the heel.
If you follow the Sneaker History Podcast or the blog, or if you read any of my writing on other platforms, I've got a newsletter that goes out a couple times a week. I was talking about a guy named Marion Franklin Rudy, who was a NASA engineer that actually came up with the idea, or basically brought to life Nike Air as we know it.
Basic idea is to inflate the air cushion with something that simulates what's happening in your lungs.
Very, very, very simple, but complicated as hell. I just had to make it work, and I made it work.
And obviously it's not just air back then. They were using all sorts of different things to try to get it to work. But we know it as air or Viz Air if you're an old school guy like me, or visible air. Obviously you see the air bubble, you know what an Air Max is. But what I wrote about recently is the Air Max naming has not always been the same. For instance, the shoe up here, I guess you can't see that. This is an Air Max 180. Has the 180 degree outsole. You know, back in the day, this came out in 1991, and it was kind of mind blowing to be able to see translucent bottoms and air bubbles on the bottom. These obviously need to be redone. I'll get my guy Mario Restores to do that for me here in the near future once the retros come out. But this shoe was called the 180 and not the Air Max 180 originally. But the naming convention changed throughout the years. Kind of a common thing, honestly, with a lot of sneakers throughout the years, because you got to figure that brands change, people, standards change. It doesn't always stick through to be exactly the same all the way through. You could even say that about Jordan boxes, Jordan labeling, that kind of thing. Some Jordans said Air Jordan, some of them didn't. Some of them had Nike Air on them, you know the story, Jumpman on the back, all that kind of stuff. Brands are always trying to figure out how to make things new, but also keep their heritage alive. And the naming convention of Air Max was just an interesting topic that came up in the Discord on a call. We have a community call once a month. Actually, technically we have two of them. One of them is trivia night. We were talking about it in Fano. Shout out to Fano. He is Archive 2K. You see him on the Sneaker History Instagram occasionally. Ask the question of what is an Air Max? And I think the common answer for me is that it is just a visible air unit. To me, that was the thing as a kid I always wanted, but it's been inconsistent from the brand. Nothing wrong with that. You know, it's tough to keep those standards. And honestly, you never know when something is going to change direction. It's possible that that 180 that I just showed you could have taken on a whole new life and became 180 through and through for the rest of time or whatever. But it evolved into shoes like the Air Max 93, it evolved into shoes like the Air Max 95, the 97, all the way up until the recent stuff like the Air Max DN. But anyway, this is my Nike by You Air Max 1. Obviously, the inspiration for that is one of my favorite shoes of all time and a very famous sneaker colorway you're probably familiar with. This is one of my pairs. The Nike SB Tiffany Dunk. I'm not sure. I don't know. How'd I do? You get the vibe, right? This is kind of what I was going for. I mean, this colorway is beautiful. And the materials, bravo, Nike, you did a great job on this series of the Nike by You Air Max 1. I'm super bummed that I couldn't get my size 13. I accidentally ordered a women's 13, which is a men's 11.5. These may or may not be for sale depending on when you watch this video, but you can hit the link in the description below to get into our Discord, join the community. A bunch of great people in there that absolutely look out for each other, trying to get releases, hunting down old shoes, finding information, and honestly it's become almost like a support group for me. You know, we all get to vent a little bit, we all get to celebrate our wins together, and we get to celebrate each other's wins. So it's a great group of people. I really appreciate and love those guys, and if you want to join, the link will be in the description. Thanks for watching. Tune into the Sneaker History Podcast every Monday and check out my newsletter, which will be linked below. I usually send out one, maybe two of those a week. You get to know me a little bit better. Thanks. My name's Nick. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.